Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it's time for your weekly wrap-up, and I want to begin, as I always do, by thanking our newest Patreon supporters. They are Eric Chug, Patrick Kroger, Trevor Paisley, and John. He only goes by John, but I do appreciate the support from all of you, as well as everyone who has been contributing via Patreon, and all of you who watch on a regular basis, because all of those things combined lead to channel growth, and I really do appreciate everyone's support. We are growing at a really nice rate here. We're getting very close to 100K, a little bit closer every week, so I want to thank again everyone for their ongoing support of the channel. So what did we do this week? Well, we had a bunch of good stuff this week, so I didn't post as much because all of these videos were getting a lot of views, and I didn't want to disturb the momentum on them, so I kept the content a little bit minimal this week, but we had a lot of good stuff to look at. We looked at the Asus E200HA. This is a Vivo book running with a Cherry Trail Atom chip. It's the continuation or the refresh of the X205 that we looked at a year ago, one of my most popular videos. Another Cherry Trail device, I can't even say it, is the Kangaroo Pro, and this is a new dock for the Kangaroo. Unfortunately, you have to get another Kangaroo computer with the dock. This costs $200. You can see all of what it can do in my video review, which will be linked above with this week's master playlist, so you can check it out. I'm hoping they actually sell this dock separately from the computer at some point, although I think there's a bit of a issue with the dock pretty much costing as much as the computer does. So it's $200 with another Kangaroo PC. Split it in two, it's $100 for the dock, so maybe that's why they don't offer it separately just yet. It's funny, we've gotten to a point where the accessories cost more than the computer does. Another Cherry Trail device, it's all Cherry Trail this week, is the Latte Panda single board computer that we looked at too. So I was waiting for somebody to come up with a Raspberry Pi that runs Windows, and this one does. It's got the Intel chip on board. It also has an Arduino. I think I pronounced it correctly, and if I didn't, I'm sure all of you who reminded me last week I didn't pronounce it correctly will again sound off in the comments. I don't know how to pronounce it. I know what it is, but it's got one built in, which is really cool for makers. So this is a real maker computer, where the Kangaroo is more of an inexpensive consumer PC. They cost roughly the same, but I think if you are looking to do some projects that involve some use of microcontrollers to make things work in the physical world, this thing might be really interesting to you. So you can check that out and see what that review is all about. So the new studio is coming along. We got a little bit delayed this week because I thought the carpet guys were coming last week and they didn't. They're coming next week or this week. So I think they're going to start tomorrow on the carpet. Once that's in, the plug mold will go in for my all my electrical stuff, and I'm hoping that maybe next week, if not definitely the following week, will be in there permanently, which I am really excited about. And remember, it's going to start off really slow and kind of bland, and then I'll spruce it up as we go along here, because I really just want to get down there, get organized, and start working out of the new space as soon as possible. So stay tuned. We are on the path there. Also wanted to let you know, if you are a fan of the interviews that I do, we have now been put up on Google Play's podcast feature. So if you have an Android phone with Google Play Audio, maybe even an iPhone too, I'm showing up on the podcast feed now. You can subscribe to that and listen in. And now it's time for some Q&A, and I've got a really fun one with some old DOS games coming up in a minute, but I wanted to mention something really quick about commenting, because every once in a while I have a viewer write in who gets angry at me for not being able to respond to one of their comments or including their question in the Q&A section here or something like that. And I just wanted to mention, I used to be able to respond to every single comment I got on the channel, and I think I'm actually still responding at the same level of response that I have been doing in the past. The problem is I get so many more comments. So this is just within the last 24 hours here on the channel, and as you can see, I'm responding to a lot of them, but I can't get to all of them just given the sheer volume I'm dealing with right now. So I typically pop in the morning and respond to some comments before I head off to work, and then throughout the course of the day on my phone, I might pop up the comment thread just to keep an eye on things. But it's really hard on the phone to leave really meaningful responses or paste in links to videos and everything. So I tend to just get to the comments when I'm in front of my computer and have a few minutes to work on it. And some days I have more than others. So the bottom line is that if you are writing into the channel and you don't hear a response from me, please don't take it personally. It really hurts me to not be able to respond to as many people as I'd like, but just the sheer volume that's coming in, and to some degree it's kind of hard to manage comments on YouTube because it just gets presented as one big blob here, and I can kind of whittle it down by video, and I do that for the wrap-up video as I'm prepping for this video every week. I go back and look at last week's, and what always flabbergasts me is that I miss stuff that got posted in the comments, and I thought I always think I see everything as it comes in, but I'll come back to the wrap-up video a week later and see some really great stuff that people spent a lot of time writing recording and I missed it. So I'm really trying my best to keep up with everything, but it's getting harder and harder, and I hope you all will appreciate that. I do want to thank all of you who have been helping other viewers out in the comment thread, because some questions are really easy ones, and a lot of you are grabbing those and answering them, which has been so helpful to me, and I really appreciate it. Every once in a while, I will see that happen and give you a thank you for the assist. The worst part, though, is that I often don't see responses to questions in my little comment thing here, because it just shows me things that either went directly to me or just came into the video in general. So if you are doing that, please let me know you are. Maybe I'll find some way to thank a few of you when we get there. I would love to, like, for YouTube to have a point system so I could see who's being the most helpful and give some credit out, because that, again, is another thing that helps grow the channel, is to build the community. And unfortunately, the comment system on YouTube isn't quite there yet. So bottom line is, please don't be mad. I'm trying my best, but it's getting harder and harder. But I do read just about all the comments at some point during the course of the week. So definitely keep the comments coming, and I'll do my best to keep responding to them as we go along here. And for this video, I like to find things that I think are relevant to a wider audience, perhaps, or things that are not as obviously answered. Some questions are very easy to answer. Others are a little bit more interesting, I think, for this video, and that's how I kind of choose what goes in here. So let's get on to our first question, because this one might be, I actually get this one a little bit every once in a while. And this comes from Raghav Sharma, and he was wondering that Disney digital format that I talked about last week or the week before, about the Star Wars The Force Awakens Blu-ray coming with 5 different copies of the video on different digital services. Can you use those things on Plex? And you can't, because they are DRM'd, or digital rights management, which means you can't play a Google Play movie outside of Google Play on Plex, for example. So that's the problem. And I think Disney's kind of the best company that's been addressing this problem, in that they're offering you copies of the movie on everything that's out there, but it still doesn't make it better for a lot of us who just want to play movies our own way. And that's why I think stuff like Plex and being able to rip Blu-rays over to Plex really makes a lot of sense. And once I get downstairs to our new environment, I'll do a video about how I'm managing media within my home, because I do take my Blu-ray discs and rip the movies off of them, so I do have the flexibility to be able to play them where I want to play them. And our next question here from William Streck is a fun one, and he's asking about emulating old DOS games. Now, I've talked about DOS games in the past, but I haven't told you how I run them currently, so I figured it would be a good opportunity to take William's question here and expound upon how I do that. So Dosbox, I'm sure many of you have heard of it, is an emulator that lets you run older DOS games, because if you try to run a DOS game on a modern Windows PC, it may not run at all, or it'll run so fast you can't play it at all. And what Dosbox does is basically emulates an old DOS computer on your existing hardware, and it's on every single platform. It's open source, and it's great. And the one that I run is on the Mac, called Boxer, and there are some other versions out there for different platforms that perform similarly. Now, this is Dosbox, but they put a really nice wrapper around it, and there's a couple of cool things that it does. One is that I can take an old CD and just drag it into this menu here, and it will build a virtual machine, in a sense, of that game. So I've got Space Quest 4 here, and this is the CD version that I built essentially from the actual CD that I bought in the early 90s. I still have it. I popped it into my Mac one day. I have a CD drive hooked up to it, and I was able to create a game disc from it that I can boot up anytime I want. And I put it into my Dropbox, so any computer that I'm on, wherever I am, everything is all synced up. You know how much I love running around to different computers here on my emulators. So it's been working great for many, many years. And Boxer is a really great Dosbox implementation. And what's cool is I can just double click on it here and boot it up. Now I'm going to do something here. I'm going to let the game load up with its original Soundblaster sound. And here it is. We'll let this play out for a second so you can hear what it sounds like. Let me let this run out for a second. So that's what it sounded like for most DOS computers back in the 90s or so. Let me just pause it here. It had a decent sound, but it was this FM synthesis, and it didn't sound all that great. And what's cool about Boxer, and this is actually true of many other implementations of DOSBox on different platforms, but it's the easiest on Boxer, is that they have an option to bring in some additional emulation of something called the Roland MT-32, which was a higher-end synthesizer that many, many games were written for, although many people didn't own one back in the day, and it completely transforms the audio experience on these these games. So what I'm going to do now is quit Space Quest 4, reconfigure it for that MT-32, and boot it back up, and you're going to hear a huge difference in sound. And if you have played DOS games in the past and never heard it with an MT-32, going back and getting these games and playing them with it is going to be a life changer. So let's get this booted up and you'll hear what it sounds like. All right, so I've got everything reconfigured, and now I'm going to load up the game again, and it's going to boot up into the MT-32 mode. Now you're going to see down here it's got this little digital thing showing up, and the MT-32, the synthesizer module, had a display on it, and it would get configured by the game before it loaded, and you'll get some messages on it. Now listen to what it sounds like now. So a big difference in audio quality, and just about every game that you might have played in the 90s or so probably had support for the MT-32. And this was used a lot before CD-ROMs really came into being, because you really couldn't fit a lot of this high quality music onto a bunch of floppy disks. So these games came with a lot of floppy disks as it was, and to have high quality digital music would have taken up a lot more. So they wrote essentially MIDI files that would go out to these MT-32 synthesizers and bring everything in. Now I'm running the CD-ROM version of Space Quest 4, which had an awesome set of voice acting attached to it. One of my favorite games of all time in this genre of adventure point and clicks, and it's really a fun game and definitely worth checking out. Listen to the voice on this. I'll put the audio back on.
Semi-hero Roger Wilco as he rockets back toward his home planet Xenon, which he hasn't seen since Space Quest.
So just a ton of fun, and if you can grab a copy of this, you'll find it on Good Old Games and Steam, and you can also find a CD somewhere, I'm sure, as well. And when you buy it from one of those services, the MT-32 stuff is not activated because this is a proprietary format. You got to go out and find the ROMs, but you can often extract the executables from those Steam downloads, and especially the Good Old Games ones, because they don't put any DRM on those, and you can then configure your own version of Dosbox with the MT-32 emulation and be able to kind of re-experience these games the way some people did back in the 90s who had one of those very expensive synthesizers. And our next question comes from 2snur2, and he was curious where I'm finding all this interesting stuff on Kickstarter. And I'll be honest, lately the best finds I've had came from viewers who found something and then wrote to me, and I went in and bid on it. So that Latte Panda is a great example of it. I had a bunch of people write in asking me to take a look at it. So I take the risk on your behalf and go ahead and bid on these projects and see what happens. And lately things have been rather interesting. I do get burned every once in a while by Kickstarter campaigns that don't work out. I did a whole video on that, which I'll include in my master playlist above. But honestly, what I do most of the time is probably every week or two, I just go onto the Kickstarter technology page and just kind of browse through things and look for things that I think might be of interest to the audience, or at least to me, and bid on them, or place a bet on them perhaps, and see where they end up. So there's often a lot of stuff on here. A lot of it's junk, but a lot of it is also interesting, and sometimes the stuff even shows up and actually works. So sometimes you really do work out pretty well by going on Kickstarter and finding things before anyone else. But really the best way to find it is just to go on the site and browse around, because often the good stuff is kind of hidden beneath the surface. However, I found though that the companies that hire like a professional PR agency to let me know about it ahead of time, those tend to work out in the end. And a lot of times that means that they have some financing or some investment behind them in addition to what they're looking for from backers. And those are signs that it's a good project. So if they're on one of these cheesy aggregation sites, I usually kind of avoid it. But if it's coming from a legit PR firm, then it might be of interest because they have enough money to at least hire a PR firm to publicize it. And it's funny, is about 9 times out of 10, when a PR firm reaches out to me to tell me about the project, I've already backed it because a viewer found it first. So when all those things kind of coalesce, it gets really interesting. And one that I'm really looking forward to is Screens, S-K-R-E-E-N-S, and I interviewed the creator of that in the master playlist above. I'm going to be seeing him in a couple of days also. We'll see where that project is at. That one's really of interest to me. It's a video mashupping device where you can take multiple video sources, resize and scale them, kind of similar to what I do with my TriCaster, but significantly less expensive. So that is one I'm definitely interested in. But yeah, the best way to go about it is just to go browse around on Kickstarter and see what interests you and take some risks. And that's what I've been doing. And that's often been what's worked the best here on the channel. And now it's time for some Q&A for you, and I'm actually looking for some ideas about what to put behind me in the new space. So we've now had 3 sets, if you will, actually just locations around my house since I got started doing this. So I began when I was down in the basement before it was finished. I had that wall of retro gear, which was pretty cool. We moved to my home office, which was a bit cluttered because that's the nature of my home office. And now we're in this little corner of my living room at the moment, which I think looks the best out of all of them. It's very simple and really kind of nice. I love having my Apple IIgs back there, which I do promise to do a video about in the near future. So I'm just curious which things you like. What should I put in the background? What should I do when I finally get moved down there? One thing I'm very careful about, though, is putting up things that have logos on them, because when I took my course at the YouTube Creator Space in New York City, they really stressed the fact that you got to be very careful about even putting logos up of manufacturers that you haven't asked for permission to do so of. So I want to be very careful about that. So I'm probably not going to have like boxes of stuff behind me like I did before, but I might put that Sega Genesis back up there. We'll definitely keep the Apple IIgs back there and some other things that I find along the way. But I'm thinking actually to try to keep it very similar to this, maybe even move some of those pieces downstairs to kind of keep that very similar look, because I really do like the way this is looking, but I'm curious as to hear what you liked, especially for those of you who've been watching me for a while. Give me some good feedback and let me know what you think there. So this week we're going to be looking at a couple of cool things, including something that you all told me about when I was asking what is the best way to extend a wireless network in the home, and that is the Unifi access points. I got one right over there from a company called Ubiquiti, and I bought 2 of them, and I got 1 more coming because I wanted to fill in a dead zone that I found as I was setting everything up. And these things are great. Now I use these at my day job, but I bought them a while ago. They were still the old 802.11g, so the slower model, and they were very inexpensive and very easy to set up. You can buy tons of them and just control them all through a single application on your computer or even on a phone. They are awesome. And for a while the AC models were very expensive, but they just released the AC Lite not too long ago that is about $85, $86 a piece and can really solve all of your Wi-Fi problems. And you can really solve your Wi-Fi problems for maybe $200 versus $500 for that premium high-end triple E thing that everyone's talking about. This is better. It takes a little bit more configuration, but not much. And honestly, you will be very, very happy with it. So many of you wrote in about this. It was funny. Every response I got was about this, and I am very pleased that I took your advice and got these things going. So I'll show you how it all works probably tomorrow night at some point. I'm also going to PAX East in Boston. I'm going to be there Friday. I'm going to be working my tail off because I'm going in Thursday night. I'm going to be working all day Friday there and then coming back on a late night train to get back home because my wife is very close to our second child arriving. I don't want to miss it, so I'm going in and going out. And I want to get some cool stuff over at PAX. I'm going to focus on some of the hardware there, but I'll also probably look at a few games while I'm out there as well. So if you're going to PAX, let me know. You can tag along with me as we're running around to different exhibitor booths and everything else. I'm going to be hanging out with my friend Ken Gagney, who is the proprietor of the Game Bits channel, and he's a great guy. He's going to help me out a little bit. I'm going to do some stuff for him out there also, and should be a fun little collaboration out at PAX East. So stay tuned. I'll have something coming up from that, probably a couple of things as we're going on there, and hopefully I'll get to that Plex and Kodi video. I've been waiting to get my new studio space done. I was hoping that I would be doing it this week, but unfortunately we're still waiting on that carpet. So as soon as that space is set up and I've got my big TV down there hooked up, I'll do it in my new home theater space in the new setup downstairs. So stay tuned. It is coming soon, and I'm really eager to do that because a lot of things have changed in my setup that I'm really eager to share with you as to how I'm making all this stuff work. So we'll be covering that in detail. Now, if you want to help the channel, you can go to my Patreon page at Lon.TV/Patreon. And you can also make a one-time contribution at our fan funding page on YouTube at Lon.TV. We also have the Amazon page where if you go to Lon.TV/Amazon and buy anything on Amazon, we get a small portion of the sale and your price isn't impacted at all. So it's kind of a passive way to contribute to the channel financially. Unfortunately, this is US only at the moment, but if you are in the United States and want to help and shop on Amazon, that's a great way to help out the channel. What I'm going to be doing with a lot of these funds, in particular the Patreon and the fan funding, is using those funds to fund a high school student who will be working for me as soon as we get into the space downstairs and I get all my insurance and everything else going. It's very hard to hire people. You got to go through a lot of steps to make sure you do it right, and I'm doing it that way. So I've got to get the insurance policies locked in. We're going to set up a new LLC for the business and really do everything correctly. So we'll be hopefully getting him on board in the next, probably by the end of May, I hope, to get him going, and it should really help with my workflow a little bit because he can get a lot of the prep work done that is taking up a lot of my time right now. So I'm very eager to get that going. So I'm very motivated to get all that done. If you want to engage with the channel, you can go to my email page, my email list at Lon.TV/email. I don't email often, so if you signed up in the last 2 months, you probably haven't gotten anything from me. I'm very careful not to overload you with stuff. So when we have a live stream, I will let you know. The first live stream will likely be our new space and getting set up there. It might be kind of boring to watch the paint dry as I set up everything, but I think it might be kind of fun anyhow. So be on the lookout for that. Lon.TV/Facebook is my Facebook page where you'll see my busted up Apple Watch. That might be a topic for a video this week also. My young daughter decided to take it off the counter and drop it. So that's the end of that. But she's so cute, it's hard to be mad at her. So let's go get it fixed, hopefully. Lon.TV/forums is where you go to communicate with other users of the channel. And you can also find them and me on our Reddit page at Lon.TV/Reddit, which is a great place to suggest products for me to review because other people can vote up those suggestions too, and that'll give me an idea as how to prioritize things that I need to buy to review on the channel for all of you. So that'll do it for this week's weekly wrap-up. Again, please keep those comments coming. I am reading as many as I can, if not all of them. I can't get to every one, but I'm going to do my best to respond to as many as I can. But please don't take it personally if I can't get to you directly. Keep trying. I will eventually get to every comment that you write because I am pretty active in that comment section, so definitely keep that coming. But your viewership is the most important thing, so I really appreciate everyone tuning in and keeping me up to date on all the cool stuff that's out there to focus on the channel. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters, including gold level supporter Shabib. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.